Did you know that the first world record held by Jamaica was having the largest water pipe in the world in 1904? This pipe weighs a staggering 1.7 million pounds. It is 6,200 feet long and has 260,000 rivets. According to an article published by the Daily Gleaner on April the 19th, 1899, the story of the electrical tramway, a complete account of the work from start to finish, one of the finest systems in the world. The electric cars are now a familiar object of the Kingston streets, and it is already hard to realize how we did without them during the interregnum so prolific of profit to the busmen. The general public recognizes fully the excellence of the system and loudly praises the company's work. But how good that work is, only experts can properly understand. Mr. Holgate, Mr. Brothers, Mr. Cooper, and their well-chosen assistants have deserved and are receiving the highest encomiums of the leading men in the engineering and electrical professions. This article is written with the object of enabling the public to realize the greatness of the work from the engineering standpoint and to endorse the professional verdict. The starting of the work. The license for a system of electrical trolley tramways in Kingston was granted to the West India Electrical Company on March 10, 1898. The company did not waste much time, for they started upon the business of construction on May the 2nd, beginning with the erection of poles to carry the trolley wires. On June the 23rd, track laying was commenced on the Constant Spring line. It was original intention of the promoters to work the line by electrical power generated by steam, but it was suggested that possibly water power could be used as the prime motor, and Mr. Holgate was sent down to Jamaica in January 1898 to inquire into the feasibility of this. Shortly after his arrival, he was joined by Mr. N.L. Cooper, the well-known hydraulic expert, and together they investigated the water power phase of the question. They were materially assisted by Mr. Valentine Bell, the Director of Public Works. After exhausting all the available information on the subject, they decided to recommend the use of the waters of the Ryakobri for the development of the necessary power. Harnessing the Ryakobri. Property rights were at once secured, and work upon the plans commenced. It is conceded upon all hands that whenever water power can be obtained at a reasonable capital outlay, it is superior to steam power, inasmuch as it is greater reliability and consistency give it a dedicated advantage. A responsive mechanism. It is interesting to remark that the whole of this seemingly complex system is under absolute control, and that control is entirely automatic. The stoppage of a single car on the track in Kingston is instantly indicated at the powerhouse at Bog Walk. The whole plant is responsive to the least demand made upon it for power. This may be better explained by saying that when a car stops in Kingston, from 15 to 25 horsepower less is required of the powerhouse, and the output of power is always regulated exactly by the demands made upon it. The system of regulation is so complete, and the apparatus for governing the power is so sensitive, that the instant the demand for a certain amount of power ceases, the governing apparatus in the powerhouse at Bogwalk shuts off the exact amount of water from the turbine wheels which would have produced the amount of power previously demanded. The market woman who stops the car to get on with her bundle Little knows the amount of complex machinery she sets in motion by the simple act of holding up her hand. A splendid system. A system of tramways in Kingston needs very little description, as it is already familiar to everyone. But this may be said for it, that in point of substantial construction, improved appliances, and general adaptability to its purpose, there is nothing of this kind to excel it, or even to equal it, in America or anywhere else. No menace to the public. There is a popular idea that the introduction of electricity is a menace to the public safety. This is entirely a misconception of the facts. Of course, with carelessness, serious and even fatal accidents may occur. But if the ordinary precautions are used, there is much less danger in using electrical current than there is in using steam or any other system of locomotion. The mere fact that the tramways in Kingston have been run for the past 4 months through streets certainly more crowded than an average city street is elsewhere, without injuring a single individual or causing an accident of any serious moment, should settle the minds of the public on this question, more especially when it is remembered that the operation of the electrical tramways was something quite new to the people. As to any danger from the electrical current itself, the public need have no apprehension, as an accident could only happen through handling a falling wire, which is most unlikely thing to occur. Persons using the telephone have experienced a good deal of irritation since the working of the tramways commenced, by reason of the difficulty of hearing one another speak. This is caused by the tramway's current conflicting with the current used for the telephones. The remedy is very simple. It consists of providing the telephone circuits with a continuous wire. Had the telephone system been constructed on modern principles instead of on obsolete ones, no difficulty whatever would have been occurred. This is very well demonstrated by the fact that the tramway company are operating a telephone line of their own between Kingston and Bog Walk, and experience no difficulty of the kind. The danger of short circuits happening with the telegraph wires, such as that which sets fire to a telegraph instrument the other day, is obviated by the use of safety fuses. These ought to be used in any case, even though there be no electrical tramways in the locality, as a safeguard against lightning. Mr. Sale uses them on a system of fire brigade telephones throughout the city. The railway telegraph instruments have them, and we understand that they now have been placed on the postal telegraph instruments. The distance from the dam to the powerhouse is 6,200 feet, and along the whole of the distance extends this huge pipe 8 feet in diameter. It is entirely built of steel, and for the greater part of its length, if embedded in rock or compact earth, well protected from the river, even in its highest stage during the May and October floods. At places, the pipe is supported on concrete piers, and every possible precaution has been taken to make it of the most sustainable construction. It is the largest pipe in the world, probably the only thing in Jamaica which can claim such a proud supremacy. It weighs 1,742,894 pounds of solid steel, held together by 252 102 rivets. Such colossal figures may give one a good idea of the huge labor involved in its construction. A triumph of native labor. Only one white man was actually involved in the construction of this pipe, Mr. Martin Peppard. The pipe arrived in Jamaica in the shape of curved plates, was transported to Bogwalk by railway, and taken to the site by teams. The plates were assembled, placed in position, erected, and riveted entirely by workmen, under the supervision of Mr. Peppard, a man of much experience in this kind of work. We have his own statement that the native workmen learned the work as quickly and did it as satisfactorily as any workmen he has ever handled on similar construction in any country. It has been found throughout the whole of the construction of this tramway system that the native laborer, under good, strict, intelligent supervision, is an excellent man who well repays any initial trouble in the way of instruction or disciplining. The too prevalent idea that he cannot be trained to do good work must be considered as exploded. The West India Electric Company has paid its laborers well, worked them hard, and got good service out of them. The powerhouse. To resume our description of the power plant, the powerhouse itself, situated on the left bank of the river, is built entirely of steel and concrete, with foundations carried 15 feet below the bottom of the river to a bed of solid rock. How the power is created. The capacity of the Great Pipe is 2,205 gallons of water per second. This flows into the powerhouse by passing through two pairs of twin horizontal turbine wheels, each pair being enclosed in wheel casings. The water, after passing through the wheels, flows back to the river into a tail race through draught tubes. The turbine wheels work on horizontal shafts at a speed of 400 revolutions a minute. These shafts are coupled direct to the shafts of the electric generators, which therefore revolve at the same speed. At present, there are two generators, each of which is capable of developing 500 horsepower. There are also two smaller water wheels, each developing 25 horsepower, which are used to drive the direct current generators, whose purpose is to excite the larger generators connected with the turbine wheels. The generators are of the latest type and are the result of the vast experience of the General Electrical Company, a company which leads the world in the construction of electrical apparatus. These generators are what are known as the three-phase alternators and develop currents at the comparatively low pressure of about 500 volts. If these generators were near the point where the current is consumed, it would not be necessary to raise the voltage or pressure, but owing to the immense distance, the 22 miles between Bogwalk and Kingston, it is a commercial necessity to raise the pressure so that as little loss as possible may be sustained in the transmission of the current. The means used at the powerhouse for effecting this object are what are technically known as step-up transformers. These transformers have no moving parts, but to all outward appearances are merely large iron boxes. The current goes into them at a pressure of about 500 volts and comes out to enter the transmission wire at a pressure of about 14,000 volts. Such a power is truly gigantic. According to another article published by The Gleaner entitled Pieces of the Past, in 1904, the Bogwalk tube was the largest pipe in the world. 6,200 feet long, 8 feet in diameter, weighing 1.7 million pounds, with 260,000 rivets holding it together. This article also makes mention of the tragedy that happened in the Bogwalk tube. The early morning of June the 24th, 1904, dawned clear and crisp in Spanish Town, St. Catherine, and other areas outside of Kingston. Men and women were lined up, waiting to catch their tram to work as usual. They waited until they realized it was not coming. The lucky ones caught rides in wagonettes and buggies, and the unlucky ones set out on foot. No one was quite sure what had happened, only that there had been a temporary delay that would soon be fixed. By the time 8 o'clock rolled around, wild rumors had begun to circulate about a horrible accident at the Bogwog power station that had affected the tramway cart system run by the West India Electrical Company. It was said that up to 80 men who had been cleaning silt and debris in the 8-foot-long cast iron pipe, also known as a flume, were carried away from the Waiakobe River. At that time, 33 were believed dead and 17 missing. A few hours later, it was confirmed that the 17 had managed to escape through a manhole near to the dam itself. At 1 o'clock in the morning, 61 men had gone down into the huge pipe located about 15 yards from the power station. The pipe curved slightly upward and then sharply downward, running directly into the power station itself. The men encountered about a foot of water and got down to work as usual. Colin MacDonald, one of the survivors, in speaking to a Gleaner reporter at the scene, explained that within an hour of going into the pipe, he felt the water level rise, but he didn't think it was anything to worry about. It couldn't have been coming from the dam, because the dam was closed. It was always closed when the men were working in the pipes. But the water kept rising slowly but surely, and by 4 a.m., the men started to panic. Their supervisor, Mr. Duparazelle, apparently tried to keep the men calm by telling them that there was plenty of time to get out. But his men panicked and threw their torches into the water so that they were all covered in darkness. Soon, it was said a man appeared at the manhole with a torch lighting the way and calling to the men. 28 managed to get out in the over 20 minutes it took for the water to fill the pipe. If they had listened and remained calm, site reports reveal the 22 minutes could have saved 300 men instead of 33. The remaining men. According to Gleaner records of the event, Duparazelle, distraught by the experience and trying his best to come to terms with this catastrophe, could only seem to say that the water must have, over time, swelled to the point where it rushed over the sand and debris to flood the pipe. Although no one lived to tell this tale, it is believed that 3 of the men, located in a narrow section of the pipe, panic-stricken, Duparazelle explained, had tried through a 2-foot 8-inch wide manhole at the same time and effectively formed a human plug, entombing all 30 behind them. These 33 were found drowned, all heaped together, their clothes torn, their faces and bodies completely mutilated. Afterward, within a few days, the tram car system was back in operation.